2078.
This is starting to feel familiar. Okay, let me get straight to the point. Capcom and the PlayStation 2 went together like peanut butter and jelly. The PS2 had so many games to the point where it's basically a Capcom machine. The PS2 had a whopping 132 Capcom games, which is insane to think about. And you know what? My favorite of these Capcom games is not Resident Evil 4, surprisingly. It's actually God Hand is one of the best Capcom games ever, in my opinion at least. It's mostly because I'm a big fan of games that are just stupid and goofy. There's not many of those nowadays though. But God Hand is 100% not for everyone. This game has some crude humor and also has some questionable humor in moments. But look past that and it's a great game. And you're probably saying to yourself right now,
why is the title of the video say that this is the most obscure Capcom game?
Well, Jimbo, that's because the title of this video is both wrong and also kind of right at the same time. Despite the fact that this game sold
60,000 units.
Capcom does not acknowledge this game at all, to the point that the game literally faded into obscurity, which is quite sad. Especially the fact that this game was enjoyed by like a lot of people. So hopefully this video will inspire more people to play the game and maybe even make Capcom consider doing something with this game again. But, you know, I doubt it. It's Capcom. But then again, they did say recently that they're thinking about looking back at some dormant IPs. So there's a chance. Now, I'm not sure if this video is a review or just something else entirely. It's kind of like my Sonic Heroes video where I was just talking about the game in general. I'm doing kind of the same thing here, and I enjoyed making that video and I wanted to do it again, except on a game that I personally enjoyed and that is kind of underrated. Well, more like obscure. I mean, then again, I enjoyed Sonic Heroes, just that I didn't enjoy it as much as this game. Also, this video will 100% have spoilers, so be warned. Also, before I talk about God Hand, it would be greatly appreciated if you like and subscribe. I put a lot of effort into these videos and it would be nice to get support for my work. Anyway, now it's time to actually get into the dang video. So God Hand's plot line starts actually a while ago before the game starts. Basically, a fallen angel became a demon king known as Demon King Angra. Angra was defeated by a man who had the power of God in his arms, and the people he saved called him the God Hand. And basically those people are now a clan who protects the God Hands, and the main character of the game, Jean, saves the girl from that clan, Olivia, and he saves her from a group of bandits who wanted the God Hand. In the process of saving her, his arm got chopped off. So then Olivia replaced Jean's arm with the God Hand. The main antagonists of the game are the Four Divas. They are a group dedicated to reviving the Demon King Angra. The group features 4 people: Bells, the leader; Elvis, not the singer by the way; Shannon, the ringmaster; and last of all, Hazel, the devil hand. And just as his title suggests, he also has a God Hand. But it's also a corrupted one, because if you're evil, the God Hand will also turn evil. But if you're a good guy, the God Hand will have godly powers instead of evil powers. I'm not sure if Jean is going on a journey dedicated to stop them, or he just happens to run into them, but I assume his journey is to stop them, but the game doesn't really make that clear. Yeah, over the course of the story, you get cutscenes showing what the divas are doing, but most of them just are them saying how they want to fight Jean and take his God Hand so they can revive Angra. But there's also some other cutscenes, but most of them involve Jean just getting into strange situations or have these odd cutscenes with villagers.
Thank you! Swimming a medley, huh?
But there's also cutscenes of Jean and Olivia. But most of them just involve Jean getting told by Olivia to fight some demons who are bullying humans. There's not really anything else with these cutscenes. God Hand's gameplay is simple yet complex. complex. The gameplay is literally just punching and kicking, but the thing is though, you can set up different skills so your combos could be different. Square is the main attack button for this game, but you also have X and triangle. You can set X and triangle to be different skills as well, and if you use square then X and triangle, you can have some pretty wacky combos. There are over 100 skills in this game, so you can have a different loadout with each and every battle if you so desire. This game also has a somewhat new game plus where you get all your skills back, but also it adds new skills. Near the end of the game, I had most of the new skills. They are god-based skills, and they are overpowered. And because of those, I was able to beat the final boss quite easily. Enemies tend to guard sometimes, and with certain attacks, you can break their guard. These are called guard breakers. For example, I set up mine with run plus analog up and square. Using that, I can easily break an enemy's guard. Sometimes when you beat an enemy, a super demon will come out. I don't know what they're actually named. My tactic for beating them is using the fully charged god hand and just start wailing on them. And yes, that bar under the health bar is your tension gauge. When it's full, you can use the full powered god hand just like I mentioned. Something you may have also noticed is the orbs. Those are roulette orbs. If you have one of these, you can use a roulette skill. There's quite a few of these in the game, and by pressing R1 will allow you to use one of those skills. In case you run out of orbs, there are skull cards that you can find that will restore one of your orbs, or even multiple. If it wasn't obvious already, there's also a level system. And as you can see in the corner, it shows level 1. But as you beat up enemies, it'll go up to level 2. The level system goes from level 1 up to level 4, aka level die. The level system in this game is very interesting. It doesn't work like a normal level up system. Instead of getting easier, it gets harder. At level 1, the game is normal, right? But at level 2, the enemies are smarter and more dangerous. Usually they won't gang up on you at level 1, but at level 2, they won't care. And they'll certainly gang up on you. And at level 3 and level die, they will not only just gang up on you, they'll also attack you regardless of where you are. Even if you're like, I don't know, like 10 meters away, they'll run up to you and try to kill you. To increase your level, you must attack and dodge, like I mentioned earlier. Attacking without getting hit will increase the level, and to decrease the level, you must either take damage or use the grovel roulette skill, which I accidentally used once during a boss, and my level went down. After you reach a checkpoint in a stage, you can either save your game or go to a casino or shop. The shop sells techniques and roulette skills and power-ups. Power-ups get more expensive as you purchase them, and some can upgrade your health or your tension gauge, or even add some more roulette orbs. And then there's a casino. Basically, it's full of gambling. It's got poker, blackjack, and slots. There's also Chihuahua racing. I never did that because I really don't care about it. Last but not least, the arena. You can enter in there to fight some enemies and get some cash. The lower you go, the higher the difficulty. Of course, the higher the cash flow. Another thing you may have noticed is the fact that I changed my costume. When you play on New Game Plus, you get the ability to change Jean and Olivia's costumes. Jean has multiple costumes. He has a karate costume, aka my favorite one, a carnival costume, it looks more like a male stripper outfit though, and the devil hand costume. It looks like a cooler version of his default costume. And for Olivia, she has only one costume, a bunny outfit. I changed her outfit to that for like one level, and yeah, I changed it back to her default one. Maybe I'm just weird, but I really like the gameplay for this game. In hot take, I think the gameplay for God Hand is better than the first Devil May Cry game. Maybe even better than DMC3, but hey, that's just my opinion. God Hand's gameplay is extremely fun when you learn how to play it. Like, yeah, it's dated, and especially since you have the right analog stick to dodge for some reason. But still, regardless, it's very fun. Just like a classic beat-em-up game, God Hand has stages. But the stages in this game are pretty long and have multiple areas. At first I was going to say that stages usually only have 5 areas, but no, that is wrong. Because sometimes they can have far more than that. Sometimes they can have like, I don't know, 13 or even 15. I'm exaggerating, of course. But another thing is that you can find these weird fairies, and if you talk to them, you can play one of their challenges. They're usually pretty easy, like especially the one where you have to destroy a car, which I'm pretty sure is a reference to Street Fighter. Some later stages in the game tend to have like more gimmicks. For example, this area in stage 6 where it becomes a platforming section for some reason. Another later area in stage 6 has an Elvis-based puzzle where you can light a blunt for a statue, which is pretty cool. Also on stage 6, there are some interesting events that can happen, like Tiger Joe. He's a mini boss who dodges a lot. I don't know if he's human or a demon, but he's kind of tough to fight. Another one is that there's the samurai in some areas who come out of a sliding door and attack you, and he's another mini boss enemy. Unrelated to gimmicks, but in a later area in stage 6, there's this interesting cutscene.
Thank you! Thank you!
Thank you.
Well, now it's time for the longest segment in this video, the bosses. Bosses in this game tend to range from either great or kind of bad, just like another game I talked about before. Well then, time to talk about the first boss, Mr. Gold and Mr. Silver. These guys are technically the first boss in the game, and it's kind of obvious what these guys are based on. Yeah, stereotypes. Besides that, I don't really like these guys, mostly because this boss just feels like you're fighting some basic enemies just with a large health bar. Kind of lame. Elvis, the first encounter. Yeah, as you can tell, that this is the first time you fight Elvis. And yeah, he's based on stereotypes as well. But besides that, Elvis is actually my favorite character from this game. He's just hilarious, man. Also, this boss is fine, but his bosses get better later on. Giant enemy crane. Well, just as the name suggests, it's a giant crane. And the name of the boss kind of reminds me of this clip from a PlayStation showcase they had like back in the PS3 era.
The stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. So here's this giant enemy crab.
But yeah, anyway, some enemies will spawn here and there, but I had more trouble with the enemies rather than the actual crane. Hilarious boss though, the 3 evil stooges, first encounter. Yeah, just like with Elvis, you gotta fight these people again. Thing about this boss though is that they're not necessarily a difficult boss, but they can trip you up. I almost died at the end of the boss, so I had to lock in and avoid death. Also, I really don't like how these guys are just beefed up basic mobs, but whatever. They aren't the main boss of the stage, so it's fine. Elvis second encounter. This is the second Elvis boss, and oh man, it's much more difficult than the first one. He has more attacks, and he just attacks faster in general. Definitely a step up from the first encounter. My tip would be just dodge as much as possible and use roulette skills whenever you can, because they will come in handy during this boss. Masked Gorilla, first encounter. Yeah, you get it at this point. Some bosses will come back, and yes, the gorilla comes back, but that's way later in the game. To sum up this boss, it's fun, but it also has a mechanic where a dwarf will run in with a banana, and if you get it, you get healed, but if the gorilla gets it, he gets healed. But yeah, it's kind of an easy boss, you know? It's kind of a fun boss too. The 5 Mad Dwarfs, first encounter. I would have said their actual name, but it's kind of an offensive word, so I'm using dwarf instead. Anyway, these guys seem to be inspired by Super Sentai stuff. Their voices are hilarious though. But yeah, the boss is kind of easy. Their second encounter is like a tiny bit harder though. Shannon, first encounter. Oh my goodness gracious. I hate this boss, bro. He spams too much, and he also will turn you into a chihuahua and kick you, which is quite rude. Also, the music for a boss fight is so annoying, dude. 0 out of 10. The 3 evil stooges, final encounter. Yeah, that's right, the final encounter. The reasoning for why is because, well, well, yeah, this boss is a bit harder than the first one, mostly because they'll gang up on you regardless of what level you are. Just like the first one, I had to lock in because I almost died. Azel, the Devil Hand, first encounter. This is a tough boss. It actually feels like he's testing your skills instead of spamming like a certain other boss. Too bad you're not actually able to defeat him, because when you get him down to half health, he will just be like, yeah man, I can see that you're getting used to your god hand. Anyway, I'm out of here. But yeah, the boss is fine. The second encounter is better though. Dr. Ion, first encounter. Pretty fun and creative boss. Too bad he's too easy, because you could just combo him and just keep dodging his attacks. His attacks are really easy to read. Yeah, I took some damage from him, but not as much as some of the other bosses in this game. Pretty fun though. Raphael. This guy's just a basic mob, but with unique attacks and nothing really special. He's got some buddies with him, but he's a very easy boss. Also, he appears again soon. Ravel and Debussy. Well, now there's two of them. One is a guitarist and one is a drummer. Another fun boss, but I was almost dead when fighting this boss, so I was mostly just throwing junk at them. But despite that, this boss is kind of easy. Wait. Oh no. Anarchy. And then there was one. I'm not sure if he's a optional boss or not, but he appeared right after I interacted with the dead bodies of the other dudes. So yeah, he's basically the same as Ravel, except for the fact that he has electricity based attacks, but yeah, he was pretty easy regardless. Elvis, final encounter. Well, but this is it, the final fight with Elvis. This fight is pretty fun. After I learned how to dodge his attacks, this boss battle became a lot of fun. Another thing is that you can combo him enough so then your tension gauge can fill up 100% and then start wailing on him. This will make his boss go from kind of difficult to very easy. But yeah, this was a great boss. 10 out of 10. The 5 Mad Dwarfs, final encounter. Well, they're back. And this time they have way more health and lightsabers. Yeah, they're not really all that different from the first battle you have with them. They're just a tiny bit more difficult. They have more unique attacks, like they have more team attacks, but yeah, they're pretty easy. Psychic Dwarf. This is probably the funniest boss in the game, because you literally walk in the room and bro's like, "You gonna kill me?" And Gene is like, "What are you talking about?" And then he just tries to kill you anyway. This boss is pretty fun and also pretty creative. It feels like a platformer boss that was slapped onto an action game. After each time he throws like 8 rocks at you, he will summon dudes to fight you. You can either beat them up or ignore them, bully the old man. I did both. Shannon, final encounter. Shannon is back and she looks like a Devil May Cry boss. This is her demon form, kind of similar to how you fight Elvis in his demon form during his encounter. This boss is far better than the first one. She has a better moveset and she makes you dodge more and think about your moves more. The music is less annoying this time around, which is a major improvement. To be honest, I actually like this version of the boss. 10 out of 10. Dr. Ion, final encounter. I'm not sure if this is an optional boss or not, but in this level I broke a pillar and he appeared. Anyway, here's a slightly harder version of his first battle, except now he has a drill hand and will also grab you now. Not much of an improvement though. The Great Sensei. After jumping out of a flying pyramid, yes, there's a flying pyramid stage. It sucks though. Gene encounters the Great Sensei. When I played this game for the first time, this was the hardest boss in the game. But now since I actually know how to play this game, this was one of the most fun bosses in the game. If I had to rate this boss, I think it would be 10 out of 10. The Great Sensei is definitely a threat though, because he hits hard and he can clone himself, so you have to be very careful. If you have any roulette orbs, then I would recommend using some of them during this boss, and also the God Hand itself becomes pretty handy in this boss, so make sure you have your tension gauge completely full and make sure you dodge whenever you can. But yeah, I only died once during this boss in this playthrough. Bells, demon form. The leader of the 4 divas, Bells. This guy looks like a Resident Evil boss, and he reminds me of Sadler from Resident Evil 4. He looks nothing like him, but he just gives off those vibes, you know? This boss is easier than the Great Sensei, but unlike some other bosses, he actually has a second phase. In the second phase, he grows wings and will grab you sometimes. My advice is just like the Great Sensei boss advice. Dodge whenever you can and make sure you use roulette orbs, and also make sure you use the God Hand. After defeating Bells, you will enter the final stage. This is where the final bosses of the game are. So now it's time for one of the final segments of the video. The final stage. Probably the worst one in the game. I hate the beginning of the stage, mostly because the game throws a bunch of enemies at you, especially beefy ones. And then there's a Tiger Joe as well. This one I thought had a demon form, so it was especially tough. But yeah, at this point in the game, Olivia gets kidnapped by Azelle, and then Gene has to go find her. It leads him to the Tower of Angra. And then when you enter the tower, you hear a mysterious voice telling its minions to rise. And this is when the final trials of the game begin. So let's get into it. Masked Gorilla returns. The gorilla is back, and now he's stronger than ever. Not by much though. He has more health than the first encounter and hits harder, but regardless, he's easy. Just dodge a lot, maybe use your God Hand, and you will will win. The Fat Ninja. Okay, this boss is just a stronger version of one of the big dudes in this game. Just beat up his cronies and then beat him up. Easy peasy. Afro Fist. Another case of a beefed up default mob. He has some unique attacks, but he's just a normal mob, but with more health. He also sent 2 henchwomen after you, so I recommend getting rid of them first before you fight him. After reaching the top of the tower, you meet Azel, and you see that he has Olivia in some weird magic stasis like she's possessed or something. And now you fight him in this final battle. Azel, final encounter. This is a harder version of his first encounter, and he feels like he's cracked out in this version, man. He's faster and he dodges more. I was lucky that I didn't die. And when you get him under 50% of his health, he will enter phase 2, which he will take off his sunglasses and unleash the devil hand. Yeah, this is where the battle gets even more difficult, because when he unleashes his devil hand, he gets faster, stronger, and then he dodges even more than earlier. My tactic is the same as always. Dodge whenever possible and utilize roulette skills and unleash the God Hand. After beating Azel, it's revealed that he is the catalyst for the return of Angra. Azel doesn't want to be controlled by Angra, so he rips off his God Hand and gives it to Jean. And the final battle with Demon King Angra begins. Demon King Angra. This boss is tough. He has 2 bars of health, and also he can summon demons randomly. And also he has some of the weirdest hitboxes ever. I can dodge properly and still get hit somehow. His eyeball fireballs are pretty easy to dodge. And same with the sock waves. I ended up dying once during this battle, but the tactic I used was combos, dodge whenever possible. And another thing is that I will also unleash the God Hand whenever possible, and then use the double Shaolin roulette attack that gets added when you get the double God Hands. This attack does so much damage. Like, it could clear his entire health bar if you're lucky, actually. But yeah, using that tactic will net you a win pretty easily. Yeah, somewhat. Angra gets steamrolled by Jean with the power of 2 God Hands, and then finally saves Olivia. Oh yeah, and then Azel dies. And then Olivia threatens to chop Jean's arms off. And that was it. That was God Hand. This game was probably one of the goofiest Capcom games I've ever played. It's also one of the best Capcom games I've ever played. I hope that one day Capcom will come back to God Hand, especially now that Clover Studios is back. And heck, maybe they'll get Shinji Mikami back as well. And then maybe he'll make a God Hand too. Probably not, but a man could dream. If I were to rate God Hand, I would probably rate it 10 out of 10. Okay, no, not really. Probably a 9 out of 10. Mostly because, man, this game got some tank controls, bro. But then again, basically every old Capcom game had that. But yeah, God Hand is really good, you know. I mean, it has some issues, like I mentioned earlier, but you know, it's a pretty good game. I think people should play it. I think more people should play it. I'm hoping that one day maybe Capcom would remake God Hand, like I mentioned earlier. Well, I mentioned God Hand too, but personally, I think I want a remake of God Hand. Hopefully, they don't tone it down, but you know, it's Capcom. They probably would. But anyway, that's about it for me, dog. I'm out of here.